to Shit's True, the podcast where we go over movies and the actual history behind what these movies were apparently about. I'm Dorcas. This is Scoot. And this week is Scoot week to do all the research. So I only had to watch the movie. But we did decide to go give the gangster genre another try. And we went with it was
Black Mass.
Black Mass, made in 2015. And so apparently there are two movies about this guy. The Departed, which is a very famous, great movie that I've never actually seen, but it is also about the same gang, but more from the FBI perspective than the gangster perspective. This one is more from the gangster perspective than the FBI perspective. And the main gangster is Whitey Bulger. So take it away, Scoots.
Yes. All right. So here's the thing that I've realized about gangster movies. First of all, this movie's cast is stacked. I did not realize that going in. Just stacked. So we'll go over who's who.
That's why I chose this, because that's what I was going for between my ADHD just like left me. I chose this one over that one because of Johnny Depp.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to.
Not in this movie, he wasn't. Goddamn.
Jesus, no.
He did not look like himself. I was like, no
Props
way.
to that makeup team, because I'm telling you right now, all I could think every time I see this fucker, all I could think is Ice King from Game of Thrones. The contacts are so unreasonable. It was unreasonably blue. And his face is so like pulled back and old, and the yellow teeth. Oh God, it was. Yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ.
It was bad. It was bad. But here's the thing that I've recognized in gangster movies and gangster TV, right? You have the stacked cast, which you can recognize. Everyone else is just a cut and paste white man. Don't ask me who any of these people were. I don't know. I had to wait for the subtitles to come on and just pray that they said a name so that I could note it down, because I'm like, I could have seen this man. I saw this man for 2 hours. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I have no idea. You're just a mediocre white man. I don't know who you are.
I'm telling you right now, half the dudes that got killed, I had to sit there and go,
yeah, is he important? I don't. Right? They would say a name and I'd be like, dude, who are you? Who is this man? Nobody knows.
We'll get to a Florida one. They don't. And they're like, they killed, did they? And I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, I had to. I'm not gonna lie. I had to rewind a couple of times just to be like, what am I looking at here? I don't know. But anyway, so we have the main cast. We have James Whitey Bulger, played by Johnny Depp. Then we have his younger brother, Billy Bulger, played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
My other husband. Please.
I hate to tell you this. I found out some information about him over the last week. So we did Alan Turing, right? We did that movie, and both of us were like, that man is so autistic.
Yes.
And everyone looks at Sherlock Holmes, and they also apply the label of autistic to Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Benedict Snatcherback hates this. He hates that people are applying those labels to them. He doesn't believe that they are autistic at all. But it's worse because he played Frankenstein's monster in a Frankenstein movie a while ago. And in order to research for that role, what he did was he went to, I don't know if it was a state home or like one of those day camps that people send their autistic children to, but he went there to do research for Frankenstein's fucking monster. And the things that he had to say about those kids, most of them are very high needs. And of course, we know autism is like a whole spectrum. Most of them are very high needs that he's seeing that are being sent to these camps. The things that he said about them were so atrocious. And the fact that that's what he was doing. So like, I have never liked this man, and now I feel like,
yeah,
you see, like I told everyone, yeah, there's something about him. Even on screen, I can feel his aura when he's playing other people, and I was like, No. So sorry to tell you that. Anyway, focus. Um,
Back.
FBI agent John Connolly is played by Joel Edgerton, which I was shocked. I was like, I had to actually look that up. I was like, is that him? Like, he looked good. FBI agent Charles McGuire's Kevin Bacon. Kevin Weeks is Jesse Plemons, which he also looked really good. Brian Halloran is Peter Sarsgaard. FBI agent John Morris is David Harbour. Before Stranger Things, he looked like a little baby, and I only refer to him as Hopper in this entire thing. So you're just going to have to get over it. He is Hopper to me forever and always. Stephen Fleming is Rory Cochrane. FBI agent Robert Fitzpatrick is Adam Scott, who I also exclusively refer to as Ben Wyatt. So you'll have to get over it. And then we have Julianne Nicholson as Marianne Connolly and Dakota Johnson as Lindsay Sire. And that's just the main cast.
Right?
There were so many other people in this movie.
Yeah.
So we open up in like an interrogation thing. We're recording the testimony of Kevin Weeks, and he is totally asserting that he is not a rat. And they are like, yeah, it's on the record. You're not a rat. Everything's fine. They are recording the testimony for racketeering, extortion, kidnapping, and accomplice to murder. And he is apparently making a deal with the feds. So he's moving on from a trusted confidant and notorious gangster in the Boston area to total state witness. And the state wants to know about the Winter Hill Gang. Now, the FBI and John Connolly and Whitey Bulger that is how he's all connected. Whitey was his former boss, and Whitey is now a fugitive. So they're trying to get as much information about the White Hill Gang and what Whitey did as possible. We're shooting back to 1975 in South Boston. Weeks is way younger than we initially saw him, and he has the biggest fucking hair and has so many secrets in it, and it is hilarious. I love it. But he's on the street in front of this bar. He's playing the bouncer at Triple O's Lounge. And there's this guy that comes up and he basically says, no, you can't fucking come in here. Last week you came in here, you got shit faced and you pissed on the bar. That's frowned upon here, is what he says. We're not going to do this. And this guy is like, no, I know Jimmy. I know Whitey. And he's like, oh, you know Whitey. Okay. Right. And the dude headbutts Weeks. Weeks starts laughing, which is when you know you fucked up. If you hit someone and they start laughing, you're going down, like you're going to the grave. Just starts knocking the shit out of him. And then we see Whitey in the bar, and he's got a gaggle of gangsters around him. One of the guys that he's sitting with at this table and talking to is like scrounging around in like a bowl of peanuts on the table, like the communal peanuts there, like just scrounging around and then licking his fingers. And it was so viscerally disgusting to me. They like zoom in on him licking his fingers and then putting them back in the bowl and just it was so gross. And Whitey calls him out on it and is like, you are so fucking disgusting. Don't fucking do that again.
Oh, yeah. He went full on like, he's like, I've sat here for an hour and watched you take your grubby little fingers and lick all over them with your disgusting fucking mouth, and then take those same grubby, disgusting fingers and put them in a communal bowl. If like, I ever fucking see, I was like, and so Whitey's a germaphobe. He's not only that, playing with you,
but that's so fucking gross. And like the dude lifts up his fingers and he's got like peanut remnants on it, like stuck to his spit.
Like if it was cheesy poops in that bowl, his whole face would be orange. His whole hands would be orange. And he's just like licking on it.
So gross. Then somebody comes up to Whitey and is like, "Hey, there's some shit going down outside. We need you out here." They go outside and they're still just fucking, and it's Weeks against like 3 dudes. So Weeks he's holding his own, but everybody's getting the shit kicked out of him, right? Whitey's finally like, all right, put a stop to that. His guys go, put a stop to it. That he pulls up the piss guy and smacks the shit out of him and then drags him off. And apparently that guy was a man named Charlie McTiernan, which I don't think we ever see again. But he's apparently married to one of Whitey's cousins, which makes Week go, fuck? Like, oh,
Yeah.
what did I do? Like, oh no, this was just piss guy. I didn't want piss guy in the bar. And now,
Yeah.
like, what's gonna happen?
I was like, oh man. I was dumb though, because I was like, oh no, are you gonna die? But then I was like, well, obviously not. He's talking from the future.
Yeah,
And obviously he
I
isn't
had the
gonna
same
die.
thought process of like, at least shivved, right? Like, at
Right.
least like do
Right.
you lose a toe? Like something. But no. The next morning, Weeks is hanging out on a corner, and Whitey pulls up with a bunch of with another dude in the passenger seat, tells him, get in the fucking car, and he like gets out and is like, no, you're driving. Makes him drive. And again, I'm like, Weeks is behind
Yep.
you. Weeks is
You
behind
know,
you.
and man, anybody dealing with these mafia dudes back then or whatever, having one of them be like, get
Death
in the
wish.
car had to be one of the like worst moments of your fucking life.
You're not getting me in that car.
Right? It could turn out good, but it could also turn out really bad. So
no, thank you. And I would just.
He was pissing his pants. You know he was. He was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm driving.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
thanks.
as they're driving, it's like completely silent, which just makes the anxiety like
So
ramp
much
up
worse.
to a 10.
Yeah.
But they drive up to this fucking empty parking lot, right? And the other guy in the passenger seat is asking like, "Why are we there?" And Weeks finally starts freaking out. He turns around, he starts apologizing to Whitey, like, "I didn't know who he was. He pissed on the fucking bar." Da, da, da. And then all of a sudden, Whitey is like, "You shut the fuck up," and just grabs the back of the other dude's head and starts slamming it against the dashboard. And I was like,
and the other dude was like,
and Weeks is like,
and then he's like,
yeah, he's like, I guess we're doing it. I guess this is what happens.
Fuck it, we're jumping him.
Yeah. They get him out of the car, and Weeks just continues to beat the piss out of this man until Whitey's like, all right, that's good enough. And then they just get in the car and they leave. I guess everything's good in Weeks land.
Yeah.
I guess you made it up to him. And Weeks is still talking over this. We still get bits and pieces of Weeks and different people talking as they're talking and being telling the FBI and or whoever what was going on. So Weeks says, just like that, I was Winter Hill now. I was Winter Hill gang. It was a huge deal to me. Like, this was very important. Like, this was a big thing that happened in my life. I did all the driving. I checked on the vending machines that they had. I checked on the rackets. Basically I did whatever they told me to do. Um, and eventually he's riding around with Whitey and somebody else in the car, and Whitey sees like this old lady walking on the street with like a grocery cart, and Whitey knows her, so he tells him to pull over. He goes and he says hi, and she asks him when he got out of Alcatraz, and he's like, "That was like 10 years ago. I've been out for a while now. That's been a minute." But she's so excited to see him, and like talking about how it's so great that he's still in the neighborhood, and he introduces her to everybody else, and then he tells her like, "Hey, get her groceries, make sure she's straight, put them where she tells you to," and they go on. Which this is like this is not just for the movie to like humanize gangsters. Like, you see this a lot in gangster movies, but if you really look into and research particularly gangsters that are um of the same not ethnicity, but like have the same ancestors of the people that they are surrounding themselves with, there's this really tight community that forms, which like the meme, like, what bodies, what murders, like that's really how people treat these people, because they see them as giving back to the community, whereas the government and the local cops, they don't give shit back. So like, this was not just a play up for the movie. Like, that people really respected him, and most of these kind of mob boss type people, they really respect them in the areas. Weeks goes on to explain to the government that this was normal. Everybody loved him. And he says that John Connolly, the FBI agent, grew up just a few doors down from Whitey and his brother, and that he was friends with Billy. And at one point, Whitey stepped in to stop a fight with Connolly, like, to like finish a fight for Connolly. Connolly was getting beat up. So that kind of sets up the relationship between the FBI agent and this gang. Then we see Connolly and Fitzpatrick and Morris in the FBI offices, and they are welcoming Connolly to the team. He's just moved back to Boston. Um, and Weeks is saying that it is not always easy to tell who's a cop and who's the robber on the street because they used to play that as kids, and now nobody knows who anybody is. It's just whatever you are at that point in time. So Connolly goes and he meets with Billy in this like fancy ass house or the government. I don't know. It's this really fancy place that they meet at. They start having a few drinks. They're just shooting the shit. Turns out Billy is a senator now. And they go on, they have lunch at this really nice restaurant. And Billy invites Connolly, like, come see mom, because she's going to be excited that you're back in town. He's asking, Connolly starts asking how Whitey is doing because there's been a bunch of murders in the area lately. And the fact that Winter Hill is still active during this time of all these murders means apparently they're doing something right. And Billy doesn't like this at all. He doesn't want to talk about this. He starts laughing and he ends up calling Connolly out on using him to get to Whitey as FBI agent. And Connolly keeps saying, "Oh no, that's not," da, 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 trying to play it off like, get out of here. And he says, "Jimmy's business, Jimmy's business. It sure as hell ain't got nothing to do with me. Basically, I'm a fucking senator. Like, don't come
Yeah.
to me for any of this." But the FBI wants all organized crime to stop. And they know that Whitey and his accomplice Flemmy are in the rackets. They're controlling all the rackets. They're doing the coin machines. They're doing all of this. But Billy still just doesn't want to hear it. And Connolly ends up warning him that Whitey is getting into danger. He's going to need friends in high places because he's headed straight for danger. He tries to give Billy his card, and Billy is like, don't fucking want that. Um, and so Connolly just says, all right, just tell Whitey I said hello and I'm back. And Billy's like, if he wants to find you, he will. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need your fucking card for him to find you. So, and Connolly goes home and he flirts with his wife, which is like their whole relationship this entire movie. I was like, all right, just shut up. Just shut up, shut up, shut
Right.
up, shut up, shut up. I hate it. Um, but Whitey goes home in the early morning hours to visit his mom at his mom's house. She asks him how work was, and he says, he's tired. He's going to take a nap. So assuming that mom knows what both of her sons are up to, and then she starts ripping into him, says he owes her $56.
Yeah.
So they pull out a deck of cards to play, and they start playing gin. Billy comes over. He's cooking breakfast in the kitchen. And of course, mom wins. And mom is like, didn't you learn anything in prison? Like, no one taught you how to fucking play gin all those years that you were in prison. Are you fucking kidding me? And Whitey was like, well, no one taught me how to cheat against my mom because my mom cheats. They sit down to eat, and Whitey goes and takes a nap. But Billy stops him and asks, you remember that Connolly kid, right? Yeah, well, he's with the FBI now and he's back in town. And that's pretty much the only thing he says.
Yeah.
Like, it's in your hands now. I told you. Do it over
Yeah.
there. Don't bring me into this. So then we see Connolly. He's in his office. He's going through a bunch of crime scene photos and information about the murders that have been happening. There's no witnesses to anything, there's no information on anyone. He gets a call, and then he like rushes out of the office, and turns out it is Whitey calling him. So he meets with Whitey in the street, and Whitey immediately starts busting his balls for being FBI and says, you got 2 fucking minutes. Like,
Yeah.
you better start talking. So Connolly tells him that someone is planning to have him murdered and says that he can help, but he has to form an alliance. And Whitey's immediately like, no, I'm not working for the fucking
Yeah.
FBI. Get out of here. And he's
He
like, no,
ain't
no,
a
no, no.
fucking rat.
Yeah. He's like, no, no, no. An alliance with me. With me, your childhood friend. Not with the FBI, with me. And I'm not trying to clean up Southie. I love South Boston just the way it is. I'm going after the North End. I'm going after the Italians, the mafia. That's who I'm going after. And Whitey's just like, yeah, that's 2 minutes. Then he dips.
Yeah.
You said your piece. Goodbye. So he pulls up to another house. He comes inside. There's a really pretty lady, and he starts flirting with her. asking how his boy is, how he's doing. The boy's sleeping upstairs. This is Lindsay Kerr, something like that. Um, and he wants to wake the little boy up. She keeps telling him, "I'm gonna beat your fucking ass if you wake that boy up," which is like the most domestic thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna wake him up."
Yeah,
Like,
and she's
don't
like,
wake
"I
him
will
up.
kill you." But he goes upstairs and this little boy is just passed out in bed, and Whitey stares at him like a parent stares at a child when they're making sure they're still breathing
Mhm.
when they're asleep. He just has this look on his face like he's making sure that he's like still there. He's still alive. Next morning, he has breakfast. The little boy doesn't want to drink his OJ, but Whitey convinces him that it's like has magical properties because his mom squeezed it for him. And then he asks him, "So, you want to tell me what happened in school?" And the little boy is like, "Well, that kid who's always trying to trip me, he stole my colors or something, and I punched him." And Whitey's immediately like, "Yeah, good job." And mom's like,
Right.
"What the fuck?" And then he asks, "Did you get in trouble for punching this boy?" Yes, of course, he got in trouble. And Whitey says, "No, you got in trouble because you did it in front of other people." And mom is like, "If you don't shut the fuck up,
Right.
you shouldn't teach him this." And Whitey says, "This is exactly what he needs to learn. This
Yeah.
is this is how you do things. The lesson is it's not what you do, it's when or where you do it and who you do it with." So the little boy ends up being like, "Okay, so if I need to punch somebody, it has to be where nobody can see." And he's like, "Yes, good job." You
Exactly.
learned the lesson.
That's my
Which,
boy.
like, honestly, yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, we tell my kid all the time, you won't get in trouble for fighting in school if you're defending yourself somehow. So,
Uh-huh.
whatever. So if nobody sees it, did you really do it?
Right.
Who knows? The police end up pulling over Whitey and his boys, and one of his boys' name is Tommy. They try to start shit. Tommy's trying to start shit with this fucking cop, and Whitey's like, "Shut the fuck up. Let me handle this. Uh, you didn't stop us on accident, so I'm assuming you've got a message." And the message is, yeah, Jerry Anguillo. I don't know how to say that name. They said it so many times in the movie, and I still can't get it.
No, I was still like,
Italian dude,
cool.
the Italian mobster. He sends his regards. He doesn't like finding these guys beat to hell in an empty parking lot, which that's the guy that
Oh,
him and Weeks
yeah.
tag teamed. Um,
Mhm.
he doesn't want any more problems. If you keep causing problems, then you're gonna have a fucking problem, basically. Tommy tries to start some more shit, and Whitey is like, "Calm the fuck down."
Right.
And he's like, "It's a really sad day when a native son takes up with the oppressor, and back home we call that penalty's death." And the cop is like, "Are you threatening me now?" And he's like, "Nope, not a threat. Just wanted to warn you in advance, just so you know what's what." And a bunch of fuck yous are thrown around on both sides, and then they get out of there. They head to Triple O's lounge, and again, it's just a bar full of Winter Hill. Tommy's still fucking bitching about the cop calling him a turncoat and stuff, and then Tommy gets into it with Whitey, and he says "fuck you" to Whitey, which doesn't go over so well. But Whitey's like, "All right, okay, if you want to take a shot at me, you go ahead, you drunk fucking bastard." Basically, go ahead, do it, but
Yeah.
it better be the best thing you ever threw because it's gonna be it. And finally,
Yeah.
Tommy like calms down and he realizes what he's doing. He's like, all right. And the bartender in the background looks so fucking done with this entire thing. He's like, "I wish you guys would just just once. There's people pissing in my bar. Now y'all are getting in fights. Like you're spreading germs all over my peanuts. Like, oh my god." So then we get a little bit more testimony. Mr. Maturano, and they call him the one of the most feared men in Boston, and they say that he's the chief executioner for Winter Hill. He's killed 20 people. He confirms that that's all accurate, and they asked, "Did why did the war between the Italians and Winter Hill escalate?" And territory. They wanted Southie. Southie was ours. You can't have it. You can't control it. You start to push in, there's consequences. We see a guy shot in his car on the street. and Whitey pulls up to Tommy looking for someone named Suitcase, which is like, okay, I know nicknames can be a little weird sometimes, but
Suitcase.
Suitcase, that's what you guys went with?
Oh my
Okay.
god. I'd be
Um,
so mad. I'd be pissed if they were like, your nickname's Freckle, and I'd be like, damn it. Oh,
I just
you
want to
got a cool
answer.
one. Like,
I just wouldn't answer. Like, no, absolutely not.
mm,
But apparently Suitcase set up a different guy called Mikey, which I'm assuming Mikey is the one that got shot in the car on the street. There's another guy hanging around Tommy who says, "Hey, I've been up in Winter Hill. Have heard that he's up there. So do you want me to join in with you? I can ride with you and show you." And he's like, "No, don't get in my fucking car."
yeah.
So Tommy brings out a goddamn bulletproof vest from inside, and they get in and they leave, and they're giving him shit the entire time for this fucking bullet. Like, where'd you get that? Where did that come from? This
Right.
is still the 70s, the late 70s. Where the fuck? Anyway, um, they pull up by the water and they all get out and they start walking. I don't know what they told everyone they were there for, but they just start walking. Tommy apologizes to Whitey for what happened at Triple O's, and Whitey is like, you've got to get this thing under control. You got to keep an eye on your drinking and shit. Like, you get out of control. You need to like handle yourself. And he's like, you're right, you're right. Yeah, I'm gonna do better. I'll get a better handle on it. And then boom, Tommy shot in the head. Just
And Whitey goes, lot did that fucking vest, did ya? And
like Jesus Christ, the ability to like be like shooting the shit 1 minute and then just be like,
oh,
I like, good lord. And
this
Weeks,
dude is cold blooded.
right?
Yeah.
And Weeks is telling the FBI that they buried him in Whitey's favorite spot, which is under the Neposet River Bridge. I didn't say that right. Leave me alone. And he says that there are tons of bodies there, that they started calling it the Bulger burial ground. And he's like, I don't know how you guys didn't get this. Like, I don't understand why it took you so long to find all of this. Like, Whitey was small time for a little while, but then was the kingpin, and y'all just let it happen. And now you're coming to me and wanting to know everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. At this point, Whitey calls Connolly, and Connolly goes to Kevin Bacon and Ben Wyatt, and he wants approval to work with Whitey, and they don't want to give it to him. Something about the terms of his parole and FBI protocol and all of this, they
You
don't want to
know,
do it.
you know what they were talking about?
What? No, I
That
know.
famous
I
CIA.
I hold on. We're
Okay,
getting
okay,
there. We're
okay,
getting there.
okay, okay.
But they don't believe he's going to be a reliable source to help bring in the Italian mafia. And Connolly is like, "Hey, yo, me and this dude, we have a bond. He'll keep his word to me," which is a wild thing to say to your FBI bosses as a
Yeah.
fucking agent, to be like, "Yeah, me, FBI guy, and this guy, mobster boss, we're like this. We're so tight."
As besties.
Hello? Hello? The fuck?
Yeah.
And then they start reading off what is most likely his psych profile from prison. They call him a psycho. They say, oh, he has all these problems, da 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 da. And Connolly's like, listen, man, you've got 4 mafia murders in 1 month in the North End, and you have no case on any of them. The mafia is laughing at us. Whitey can get us there. Whitey can get us the information, and he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
So then Ben Wyatt brings up Whitey's LSD experiments, because he can't be stable at this point, because yes, he was involved while he was in prison. He was involved in the MK Ultra um, experiments. So yeah, he did LSD on the government dime
Connolly was like,
for a while.
like once or twice. And they're like
Yeah,
12
he did it.
times. And he was like,
Yes.
he's fine.
Yeah, he was like, he did it for time off and money. He did it
Yeah.
a handful of times, and they're like, no, 50. We have a recorded
Yeah.
50 times of him. And he's like, no, 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 he's smart. He's a stable motherfucker.
Good.
Da, 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 da. And then he goes, what do you think, Hopper? And Hopper is like, well, we have more to gain than we do to lose by bringing Whitey in. And Bacon's like, fine. no drugs, no murder. So hell yeah, is fucking
Yeah.
on. So they ended up labeling him as a top echelon informant. So like the best they've got. They ended up meeting Connolly and Whitey meet in a dark alley alone, like which is already like you gotta have a lot of trust in this guy to be like, yeah, I'll meet the mobster in a totally dark alley completely by myself when he could just bring anybody he wanted to. Like crazy. Absolutely crazy. And Whitey is like, all right, here's what we're doing. It's not ratting because I'm not giving you any of my friends. I'm not giving you any of my financial partners or anything like that. What you're doing is you're helping me take out the people who are already affecting my business. So that's what we're doing. And
Yeah.
Connolly's like, yeah, absolutely. It's all business. You're a liaison, but no killing. And Connolly just kind of stares at him and then like walks away. Like, I'm not agreeing to that. Now Weeks says that he didn't know he was an informant and that Whitey hated rats. Like he absolutely hated him. He said we buried rats, right?
Yeah.
He says he knew that he had sources and connections in the FBI, but he thought that Whitey was like playing them and had a plan because that's who Whitey was. Whitey had a plan for everything. And then we see Whitey doing push-ups in like a garage. I or like sit-ups in a garage. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Flemmy walks in and he tells Flemmy, "A, we're making an alliance with the feds. We're not informing." He says there's informing and then there's informing, which is like, bro, you just said the same word in italics,
Yeah.
but whatever. So again, he reiterates, we're going to bring down the fuckers that need to be brought down. We're going to bring down the mafia and then it's going to be ours. It's a
Yeah.
business opportunity. We get the FBI to fight our war for us and they protect us at the same time. Perfect. Flemmy is not comfortable with this, but like, how are you going to say no to Whitey?
Yeah.
You can't. So Whitey explains to him who Connolly is and how he knows him and what's going to be happening. So then it's Christmas time, and Whitey is back at his house with his girlfriend, and he finds out that his son's been a little sick. She thinks it's probably just like the flu or something. Whitey freaks out and he's asking to take him to the doctors. He gets super upset when he hasn't been taken to the doctor. So he goes upstairs where he's sleeping. He puts like a wet washcloth on his face. Like he's very shook that his kid is sick at all. But he goes on, he leaves, he goes to Christmas dinner at Billy's house with the whole fam, and Connolly is there and his wife, Marianne. It's crazy. They're talking about because Marianne's not from there. So when they moved, she's like, it's kind of tight knit community, and like, you know, I haven't really made any friends, da da da. Da. And this entire time, Whitey is like giving her the eye, and it's like super uncomfortable. I was like, what are you
Mhm.
looking at her like that?
Right.
Um, they light up the tree, they start celebrating, and apparently Billy has 9 fucking kids. Hello.
Woo.
Uh, and Connolly is trying to tell Flemmy that they're doing the right thing. Everything's gonna be fine, which is like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Right.
Just half of this movie, I just Connolly, shut up. Um, they get a call at Billy's house for Whitey, which is apparently really weird. So he takes it, and then we see Whitey rushing into a hospital. Um, and this is where we find out that his son doesn't have his last name. His son has his mother's last name. He's not a Bulger. Um, he goes down to the room. The mom is freaking out, and she says that they are saying he has Reyes syndrome, which causes swelling in the brain and liver damage and all of this stuff. So it's from a viral infection initially. So his girlfriend Lindsay, she called the doctor right after he left her house, and they told her that yeah, it sounded like the flu or something or some kind of virus. So just you've been giving him aspirin for the fever, so just keep giving him the aspirin. So
Yeah.
she did. She kept giving the aspirin, and then the fever didn't stop, and it got worse. He got really angry at her. His body went really stiff, which I'm assuming was probably like him having a seizure. And for this condition, the aspirin is what causes it to happen, and it makes it exponentially worse. So she thought she was doing the right thing, doing what the doctor said,
Yeah.
and it caused him to just way deteriorate because of this infection. So Whitey goes into his room and he's sitting with him. The kid's either in a coma or he's just totally knocked out. A nurse comes in and checks on him, and she's like, "There's no change." So there's nothing that they can do in the late 70s for this kid. So Whitey and Lindsay go into the cafeteria and they're having a talk, and Whitey wants to bring. She's gonna have to cut that out.
Cut out the black people.
Oh my God, get out!
Here we go.
I know, all the time. So Whitey wants to take the kid home.
Yeah.
He doesn't want his son to be in the hospital anymore. He wants to take him home. But Lindsay's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? He's on life support. We can't take him home. He's on life support." She says he's brain dead, and she can't have her child be like this. And she says, "I'll pull the plug. I'll do it. But we can't let this go on forever." And Whitey, the look he gives her was pure hatred. Like, he looks at
Yeah.
her like she's the fucking devil. He's instantly enraged. Like, how can you be so cold? This is our child. Da da da. She tells him to go fuck himself, and she leaves. And then he tries to stand up, knocks over a chair, then just starts kicking over its fucking table, stomping out. And like, I wonder if that part was scripted, or because the jacket got like caught on the chair. So I'm wondering if that was supposed to happen, or if he caught it on the chair on accident and just decided to roll with it, and they ended up keeping
and
it
it
in.
was like, that makes sense. It works.
Yeah, that actually works. Yeah. And then the FBI is now talking to Flemmy about, after the death of his son, how Whitey expanded the business at that point. So 1981, Whitey's in a mirror checking out some new cowboy boots, new boot scooting. And Flemmy is talking about how he made money from dope, rackets, weekly collections, loan sharks, all of it. Whitey at one point wins the lottery, and everybody is like, "No way you fucking won the lottery at a gas station that you own." And he's like, "I totally did. Everything's legit. It's amazing." And beats the shit out of some people on his block that aren't supposed to be there. And Flemy's talking about how he paid off everyone. He paid off the feds, paid off the local cops. There was just money, money, money rolling around Boston to keep the operations going. And then they start taking trips to Miami.
I just like, can we pause here for one second?
Yeah.
Because one of their main businesses was vending machines. They just kept talking about the vending machines, the vending machine. And I was like, man, who would have thought vending machines? We could have, I'm doing this. Like, I never knew the vending machine game was in there, you know?
I'm pretty sure they were using the vending machines to wash the money.
Oh.
You don't make a lot of money from vending machines, especially not in the late 70s and the 80s.
I thought we were just like,
oh, I'm pretty sure either that or it was like a drop-off point where the mechanic would go and like open it to refill it, and then they would drop off. That makes more sense than their whole fucking enterprise being
vending machines and where you can put them.
Vending machines.
I thought it was all just vending machine turf wars. Like,
maybe I know too much about these things. Maybe I do too much research. Because yeah, there's no way. No, the vending machines had to be either how they were washing it, or
because they also makes so much more sense.
Or drop off points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they start talking about how they started taking trips to Miami. And apparently they got into this, I'm not going to say this right, this Jai Lai racket with a man named Brian Holleran and a man named Callahan. Now, I had to look up what Jai Lai was because they showed a little bit in there, but I still didn't understand what the fuck was going on.
I just assumed it was racquetball.
It was what?
Racquetball.
It's kind of, yeah, it says a sport involving bouncing a ball off a walled-in space by accelerating it to high speeds with a handheld wicker cesta. So it's like racquetball, but like fast and professional.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to look up because I was like, what the fuck? At first I was like, I don't even know what you're saying. What the fuck is happening? But we see they start talking about how Holleran the other people in the gang, Flemmy and stuff, didn't really want to bring in Holleran, because he's kind of a little too hot for them. It does show him shooting two people in the middle of a restaurant, so like maybe they had a point. But regardless, that's who's helping them with the racket. And at this point, Bacon is livid. He's mad as shit that they're doing all of this, and the FBI is essentially condoning it. And he's asking for something, just anything that they can provide for all the cases that they have open, because right now they're just, he called them criminal consultants.
Yeah.
Which is, I want to be a criminal consultant. Like
Right.
that sounds A1. But they need to know where the Italian family's headquarters are. They need evidence of this. And Connolly is just like, yo, chill, bro. I'll get it. Chill out.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So he goes and he talks to Whitey. And Whitey is like, well, I need that dude's location. I don't need his headquarters. I need his location. I need to know where he's at. Like, I got business to take care of. And Connolly is like, well, I need to get a wire inside of the headquarters. And Whitey's like, cool. But every one of his vending machines are now mine after y'all take care of this for me. And Connolly's like, ah, fuck it, sure. And Belinda's thinking, man, there's a lot of vending machines in Boston.
I really was. I was like, man, the 70s, people all up in their cookies and stuff. Cool.
So then Whitey tells him this, and this is really creepy. As I was watching it, I was like, this is terrifying. He says, when you go to work, when you leave for work tomorrow morning, after you take your little jog, after you get your coffee and your Danish at this certain cafe, after you read the sports page, after you kiss Marianne goodbye, before you put your keys into the car that's parked in the same exact spot that it's always parked in, might be an early Christmas present for you in your glove box, which is cool, but sufficiently terrifying.
Yeah, that was full on threatening.
You know this man's entire schedule.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't exist. I don't be perceiving me to that extent. That is terrifying. No. So, but inside of the glove box is just a folder full of intel. He takes it straight to Bacon and Hopper and Ben Wyatt, and it's just full of pictures of the Italian family, of their whole area, their headquarters, of all of them talking to each other. And Connolly's like, yeah, this all came from Whitey.
Boom, bitch.
Y'all didn't even want him. And look, now you got all of this.
Drop, closed it, suck it.
Yeah. And Flemmy is saying now that giving all that information to the FBI was a play, because now they're going to be focused in Boston and nobody's going to be focused down in Florida where we got this other thing going on. And then we see John Callahan. He's doing a press conference with the World Jai people. And the guy that is now running it, his name is Wheeler. So they fly down to Miami. They're ragging on the sport because it looks absolutely ridiculous. And it is ridiculous, but they're making all this fucking money on the bets. Everybody's betting on this shit from all over. They're making fucking hand over fist. And there's a whole ass duffel bag now full of money. And they just hand it to Whitey, which is so stupid. It's bright orange too. Like, it's not inconspicuous. Like, it's a blinking sign.
He goes, don't hand me fucking money.
Yeah, he's like, don't hand that to me, hand that to Weeks. So he hands it over to Weeks. And then now it turns out that Wheeler, who has just purchased basically the whole league, is looking into their books. And he's like, I don't know what to do. He's looking into all of the shit. He's going to put the puzzle pieces together, which one tells me that these people that you have controlling all of this, they fucking suck. You're supposed to have 2 books at least.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to go like this. But Whitey is like, all right, well, make an offer. We'll buy the whole league. And he's like, he won't sell. He won't sell. So then Whitey's like, well, do you think his widow would sell? Which at first I didn't get it. I was like, widow? How's he have a widow if he's alive? And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty smart.
And I feel like the other guy at the table that dude was sweating so hard. I was like, dude,
that's Holleran. Yep, that's
Whitey's gonna
hollering.
fucking kill you, dude.
Yep,
Like,
that's hollering.
tighten
Hollering.
up.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
So they make the plan, they're gonna make him go away. Right? And so Whitey is like, they want Holleran to do it. The other guys kind of want Holleran to do it. And Holleran, like you said, is just sweating fucking bullets. He doesn't know what he's gotten into. He's for real small time. So then Whitey is like, all right, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take this bag of money, right? $20,000, $20,000, and you're not gonna kill that guy. You're just gonna shut the fuck up.
yep.
Simple, easy peasy. $20,000, and you don't have to do shit. You've done enough for me. We can part ways. Goodbye. So he takes it. He takes it after Whitey keeps having to say, take the fucking money, take the fucking money, take the fucking money,
Yeah.
take the fucking money. Finally takes it, gets out of there. Still totally uncomfortable. But then Whitey turns around to Callahan and is like, you don't ever hand me a fucking bag of money in public. The fuck
Yeah.
is wrong with you? And then we see Wheeler, and he's leaving a country club in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's got like his golf clubs on, like there's kids everywhere, like it's a full house at this country club on this day. And then we see Malorano just walk up and just right there in public, kids start
Broad
screaming,
daylight.
everybody's running, popped him right as he was getting into his car. Insanity. And now apparently FBI has a recording of a phone call talking about the Jai Lai thing and asking what the fuck is going on with them. And at this point, Hopper starts kind of freaking out a little bit, and he tells Connolly, we need to shut it down. People, they're talking about people getting murdered on tape. Like they have this recorded, they're talking about people getting murdered, they're talking about Wheeler. And Connolly's like, no, it's fine. I'm going to take all of this evidence that we have that you, Ben Wyatt, and a bunch of other FBI agents have been listening to, and I'm just going to bury it under all the other evidence. And we'll just forget it ever exists, which sounds so
Right.
fucking stupid. He's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And it's against protocol to do this. And Connolly's like, they have bigger fish to fry, basically, that I'll handle it. Oh, God. Then we see Holleran. He's at a bar, and he's eating at the bar, and he sees the news hit that Wheeler is now dead. At this point, he starts freaking out. He goes to the bathroom, he throws up. There's like a guy in there, and he like kicks the guy out, and then he just starts snorting coke. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's the only thing you can do in this situation. Just shovel it in.
Shove it
I
all
guess.
in.
And then we see Ben Wyatt going into a meeting, or he like jumps into a meeting between Connolly and Hopper. There's someone in the interview room that says Whitey killed Wheeler. Hopper looks at him like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I thought this was gonna be over. And then they get in there, and it's Holleran. He's still sweating bullets, but mostly I think it's just the fucking drug sweats, man.
Yeah.
At this point, he wants guarantees. He wants a deal. He wants immunity, whatever. First, and Connolly is like, "Fuck you, start talking."
Yeah.
And apparently that's all it takes for this guy, because he does. He opens his mouth. He talks about how Wheeler bought the league after Whitey started sinking his teeth into it. And Holleran says, yeah, this was Malorano that did this. And Connolly the whole time is being incredibly aggressive, just trying to poke holes in the story. And Holleran keeps asking for protection. He's just still freaking out. He starts naming all of the names that were in Miami. And then Connolly is like, well, you want to take a polygraph? And Holleran's like, no, I'm not going to take a polygraph, because you're going to start asking me other things, not just what I'm telling you. You're going to start asking me about other stuff. You're going to make me string myself up. No, I'm not doing that. And then
Yeah.
Connolly's like, oh, yeah, well, I don't think I would either if I killed some people in the middle of a busy restaurant. But, that's just me. I was like,
Yeah.
God damn. They end up pulling Connolly out and basically being like, dude, what the fuck? This guy is saying all this shit. Like, we can have him on record. We can do this, that, and the third. And he's like, this is a fucking drug addict. He just
Yeah.
wants immunity from everything else that he's done. If he doesn't do a polygraph, cut him loose. And they all look at Hopper, and Hopper's like, okay, I guess. Cut him loose. So they do. And we see it is St. Patty's Day. There's a big parade going on. And then we see Billy giving this whole ass speech about ridding Boston of the snakes, of all the drug dealers and everything, the same way that St. Patty did, which is just like, Jesus, fucking Christ. He ends up walking like in the parade and like waving at everyone. And then Connolly shows up and goes to talk to Whitey in
And not
public
even
during this parade.
not even in a cool way though. Not even like I'm just walking by to do good. He's
Or like catching
hey!
his eye across the street.
No.
Nothing.
He
Just
just
walks
starts
straight.
he's just like in the middle, hey, they're accusing you of murder. Like, be a little fucking louder, asshole. What are you doing
Yeah,
right
he's like,
now?
don't you ever come up to me in public.
Yeah.
Never,
He's
ever,
like, what the
ever.
fuck?
And then Connolly's just like, did you kill Wheeler? And Whitey's like, you need to think things through before you start making accusations, especially where we are now. And like, how did you even know we were involved in the Jai lie? And we don't get to hear the answer. But whatever he tells Whitey, Whitey is pissed. And you can see all of his people looking at them talking and being like, hello?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So then we see Holleran and some other guy getting into a car. And as they start to pull away, the driver is shot through the window multiple times. And of course, Holleran starts fucking freaking out. And then there's Whitey walking in the middle of the day. And
With
it's
the
like a parking
biggest
lot for
fucking gun.
businesses
Not even like a
with
little
like a
pistol.
rifle. No, he's got like a
has like
rifle.
full on. It
Just,
might as well be one of those 1920s blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
moments. Like,
He's just taking care of business. Taking
yeah.
care of business. He's
Straight face. Just
Holleran like
pull it out.
flees he tries to back up and get away, and then he just kind of flees the vehicle. He's just on the ground just hollering, and then Whitey walks up to him with the pistol and just boom boom boom, just right there in front of God and everybody, I guess.
Yep.
People obviously see this. The people just start screaming, and then he just goes and gets into another car in the parking lot and just drives the fuck away. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Bacon is pissed. Kevin Bacon is so fucking mad. He's like, how did you let him leave? Who knew he was here? Da, 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 da. And he just starts fucking rapping. He just starts rapping. He's like, people know, people talk. I don't know what you're accusing. I don't know why you're pointing the finger at me right now. You've got all of these other agents in here, and we're in Boston. We're dealing with Southeast. What do you want to know? And he starts just this entire movie he throws Whitey's name around like you're talking about the president. Whitey this, Whitey that, Whitey can't. Like, it's a constant. So Bacon gets so angry that he asks if all Southies are F slurs for each other. He's like, that's the only thing that makes sense. And Connolly is like, this just sets off everyone.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
total
You
like
call
mayhem.
Like
Total mayhem until somebody runs in and interrupts them, because now they have a recording of the Italian mafia head describing how they're selling dope, how they're doing the books, how they have sex workers,
of his fucking teeth.
everything.
Because in that argument, Bacon was like, "You're done. Fuck your dude. Fuck your little case. It's all over. You ain't brought me shit. Fuck you guys." And in that moment, they ran. They're like, "We got it all, baby."
Yep,
and he's
all
like,
of it.
Yeah, we do. And
everything.
Now it's fucking on. Now it's on.
And Connolly is the one that goes and arrests him too, and he is so smug.
So now he's a fucking hero.
Yep.
Whitey's fucking filthy rich because he owns all of Boston now,
right?
Not just the South Side.
Yeah,
it's a great day for crime.
And then we see them at the beach, right, in Miami.
Yep.
And the FBI is asking Malorano if he was in Miami with Connolly in the spring of 1982, and Malorano's like, I sure was. We were celebrating the arrest. We were making the alliance stronger. And also Whitey had some loose ends to tie up.
Yeah.
You know? So then it shows them all at a club. They're all dancing. They're making out with random fucking women. Everyone except Whitey. Whitey's just watching from the upper deck. Just making sure everything's straight. And then he gets a nod. And Callahan and Malorano both leave the club. And then they find Callahan, the authorities do, in the back of his in the trunk of his car, bullet to the head. A couple days later. So loose ends. We go back to Boston. Connolly and his wife Marianne are having dinner. Connolly's got a new suit. He's got to go watch. Marianne is calling him out on it. She's like, you're walking different. You're dressing different. You're getting manicures, which is so funny to me. Like, at what point of being like a mob associate do you have manicure privileges? Like,
Right.
where's that
Right.
on
What
the
rank
tier
is that?
list, the
Is that like
hierarchy?
everybody, or do you have to get above
Right.
doorman?
Is there like
Like,
some standards for your
are only
fingers
the
that
maid men allowed to get the manicures?
right, like what is happening? But she's like, you're fucking changing. It's all because of Whitey. She's pissed. She's like, he's bad news. Like, I don't like this at all. And Connolly is still again, no, he's an informant. I've known him forever. Like, we're best friends. Which is so cringy
Yeah.
because even in the movie, it's very obvious that Whitey, no, you're not his friend at all. He's very much using you, and like,
Oh
besties
yeah.
for life. So weird.
He's
And
like, it's
she
a
even,
South Side bond.
yeah, and she even calls him out on throwing Whitey's name around all the time, which I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
somebody do it. Because it's just a constant. Every other word out of his mouth is Jimmy this or Jimmy that. Like, Jesus Christ. And then he goes in again. Oh, well, Whitey took care of me as a kid. You know, you just don't understand it. He's getting ready to. He's like leaving. He's like, I'm not doing this. And he tells her, you married a street kid, and in the streets you're loyal to your friends, and loyalty means a lot to me. And I'm like, bro, whatever.
Right. You're a dirty cop, is what you are.
A dirty FBI agent. Like, good
Yeah.
grief. And then we see a church full of people. There's a funeral going on. Whitey's family is all there. Billy is in like the front row, and then Whitey is just standing in the upper deck, like
Yeah.
watching like a creeper. At first, I was like, I was like, is he gonna like pull out a hit at this random people's funeral? It wasn't until I saw like Billy that I was like, oh, wait,
His
what?
mom died.
Yeah, but it turns out his mom died. Um, and Billy and Connolly go back to her house. They're just sitting at the kitchen table. They're reminiscing, talking about old times and being kids. It turns out that Whitey wasn't allowed to be a pallbearer because he couldn't be seen, because this is
Yeah.
a senator's mom now. This is not Whitey's mom.
Yeah.
So he couldn't be seen. And Connolly ends up leaving, and Whitey comes out, and it's really heart wrenching. Where he's like, "The house is so quiet. I've never heard this house be quiet ever." And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Fact of life, but I'm so sorry.
I felt bad. I was like, well, they lost their mama. Like,
Right?
they were clearly tight knit,
Yeah.
dysfunctional, but tight knit.
Yeah. Then we hear the guy, what's his name, Monterano. I can't, every time I spell it differently. The Molarano, talking to the FBI agents and telling him that Whitey was totally devastated, that this changed him forever. And the only time he was happy at this point after losing his mom and his son was when he was talking about the IRA, which I was like, I don't know why I didn't piece the time period together and being fucking Irish descendant in fucking Boston, but I didn't think we were going to IRA with this. So here we go. And Whitey is now at the pub, and he's
You
introduced to
wanna? I'm
someone.
sorry. I had
What?
a really dumb moment when I
What?
was
What did you?
watching this, and they were like, the IRA. I was like, why would he care about the IRA? I was thinking the tax people. I was like,
IRS?
why would that matter with anybody? I don't understand. It wasn't until they have the meeting with the super Irish guy that I was like,
The IRA. I see. Yeah. Yes, but he does. He's introduced to someone like relatively high up in the IRA, and Whitey is conferring with their struggle with everything that's happening, and he's promises to give him a huge stash. He's gonna do it. He's gonna get them some weapons and ammunition. At some point, there's a FBI prosecutor is retiring, or he's like getting out, whatever, they don't specify, but Connolly is telling him, congratulations, like, how great for you. And every time Connolly talks to anybody in this movie, they just have this weird, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they have this look on their face like they want to get out of the conversation as soon as possible. And like, I feel that. I would also not want to talk to this man ever. He is so annoying. But he starts talking about who the new prosecutor is, and he says, yeah, he's from Boston. He's a fucking bulldog. Like, he's gonna come in and he's gonna clean everything up, which makes Connolly a little uncomfortable, but he is still far too superior feeling for his own goddamn britches. So,
Yep.
and we see Flemmy and Whitey in a car in front of the police station, which I was like, why are you in front of a police station?
Oh my
And
god.
then Whitey starts just fucking reaming Flemmy out for fucking his girlfriend's daughter, because Flemmy and this woman have been together since this kid was like 4 years old or something. She grew up with him as her father figure, called him daddy. Eh, hello?
Yeah.
What the
And Jimmy's
fuck?
like, and he goes, stepdaughter. Jimmy goes, don't fuck with me. Don't do that. And I was like, well, good on you, Jimmy. If you never
Yeah.
did say those words, because yeah, this was a complete disgusting.
Ugh. And I mean, the girl is like in her 20s now, so she's like an
Yeah,
adult, but
still
still
very young.
very
Though, like,
weird. And Whitey is like, well, isn't she a sex worker? And he tries to like get around the question, but he eventually says, yeah, okay, she's a sex worker. And he's like, is she a drug addict? And he's like, all right, yeah, she's a drug addict. And it turns out they're picking her up from the station because she got. Jesus Christ. Um,
yep,
she gets into the back of the car, and Whitey's like, we got a present for you. It's all these clothes, and we're going to take you somewhere safe. But I have a couple questions before we leave. And she's like, yeah, sure. Like, she's so trusting and so open with them. And he starts reaming her out for getting put in jail. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, basically? And then he wants to know, what did the police say to you? And what did you say to the police? And she's
yeah,
like, oh, nothing much, just the usual. And he's like, what the fuck is the usual? I don't know what the usual is. I don't go to police stations. What's the fucking usual?
yeah,
And she's like, oh, drugs are bad, sex work is illegal, that kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, well, did they ask you about us? And she's like, yeah, they asked about you, and I didn't tell them anything. I just said, I don't really know you that well. And they're like, all right, well, what did they want to know specifically about? This is very frustrating to me because I over communicate a lot, and I hate when other people don't also do that. So if I ask you a direct question like that, like, oh, what did they say to you? And you'll be like, oh, nothing much. I'm like, "Nah,
right.
excuse me, that's not the question that I
Answer
asked.
the
That's not the right
question.
answer."
Yeah,
Right. And so she goes in and she's telling him, oh, they think you're selling a lot of drugs. I told them you aren't singing, you aren't selling drugs. You just like to hang out at Triple O's. You like to drink, you like to socialize, but it's fine. Everything's clean. There's absolutely nothing that you're involved at all. And as she's talking and I'm watching Whitey's face, I'm like, you have already said too fucking
I was like, so
much.
this girl's character is complete ditzy. Like,
Way
hey,
too
Angel.
naive.
Oh yeah, she's a complete child, and and it's so sad because she's like, I did good, right? I said the right thing, right? Like she wants their approval so bad, and he's
But
like,
you're
oh
so
yeah,
fucking stupid.
yeah, and I was like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Yeah,
Immediately I knew she was gonna die. So
yeah,
they pull up to a bunch of row houses. Whitey gets out with her. He takes her inside. He starts showing her like all like, oh yeah, we're gonna get some furniture in here for you. It's gonna be the nice, comfortable stuff. Like, it's gonna be great. And she's so excited. She's going from room to room. And as they're walking together towards the back of the house, Weeks and Flemmy just kind of file in after them. And I was like, "Ugh, oh
yeah.
no, oh no." And she thanks him like profusely, and she tells him that no one's ever done anything like this before, and he looks at her and says, kid, you're breaking my fucking heart, and then just grabs the shit out of her and chokes her to death.
Yep,
Just immediately snatches her up.
yep,
And Flemmy is in the doorframe just watching
yep.
watching it all happen.
And then when he's
And
done, he's like, now clean up your mess. I was
yeah,
like,
clean up your fucking mess.
yeah,
And he's
that's
like, I'm going
cold
to take a
blooded right
nap.
there.
I'm
Yeah,
going to take a nap. And he goes into one of the other rooms. And he also tells him, like, we have dinner with Connolly in an hour. So
yeah,
basically, you have an hour to get this shit done. And I'm taking a fucking nap.
yeah.
Um, and the FBI asks Flemmy if he ever saw Whitey murder anyone. And Flemmy does not answer this. He just stares straight into the camera. And I was like, all right. So it turns out they're having a barbecue at Connolly's house, and it's Whitey, Flemmy, and Hopper.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was him at first. I had to rewind because I was like, no way. Why would you, sir? Hello?
Yeah.
What the fuck? So Marianne is not happy about any of this. She is in the kitchen and she is throwing shit. She is so mad. And Connolly comes in and he's asking her to pretend to be nice. Just pretend, fake it. And
Yeah.
she is uncomfortable with everything happened. She says, I'm not doing this. You're socializing with him. This is against the rules. It's against protocol. Like you're and he's like, no, 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 I'm just maintaining my relationship with my informant. And he's like, everything, this is paid for everything. This brand new house that we're living, that I've bought you, the car that you're driving in the hall, in the garage, like this is paid for all of this. So what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a fuck, basically. And she's like, I'm done. I'm going to the bedroom. I'm
Yeah.
done. Y'all have fun. I'm leaving. So they're in the kitchen or they're in the dining room, they're eating, and Hopper makes a joke about Flemmy being really quiet. And it goes over like a lead balloon, and he's like, I'm just breaking your balls. And obviously Flemmy doesn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Connolly says
Well,
that,
he did just have to kill his teenage girlfriend.
yeah,
So
this whole an
he's a
hour
little
ago.
sour right now.
Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Connolly is telling him that there's a detective in Florida. He keeps calling constantly about Callahan and how they need to handle it. And Whitey is like, oh, we need to handle it. And he's like, yeah, we need to handle it. And he's basically like, sounds like something for you to handle then. The fuck do you want me to
Yeah.
do about some shit that went down in Florida? We're in fucking Boston, idiot.
Yeah.
And then Whitey tells Hopper they need to have a sit down with just them. And Hopper is obviously freaked out. And then he starts laughing. He's like, because what did you marinate this steak in? This is the best fucking steak I've ever had. What is it? And Hopper's like, oh, it's a family secret. I can't tell you. It's a family secret. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. And then suddenly he cracks and he tells him. And Whitey doesn't like that at all. He's like, so you told me it was a family secret, but in 2 seconds you're telling me the family secret so fucking fast. And Hopper is trying to be like, oh no, it's just I was
Yeah.
just saying. And he's like, don't fucking look at Connolly, he's not going to help you right now. You're talking to me. How do I know that you're not going to spill other secrets? And just saying got me a 9-year stretch in Alcatraz. Like, just saying gets you buried. And Hopper looks both infuriated and terrified at the same time. And then Whitey starts laughing.
Like a true
And
psychopath.
yeah, and Whitey's like, I'm just fucking with you. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Connolly makes a toast to success, but Hopper is still, oh
Yeah.
God, which I don't blame him. And then Whitey starts asking, where's Marianne at? Oh, she's resting. She's under the weather a little bit, which seems to like trigger something in Whitey because he's like, all right, I'm gonna go check on her. I'm
Yeah.
assuming because like his son was a little under the weather and then that went south. So you think it's just, I'm gonna go check and make sure she's okay. And they try to tell him, oh, it's fine, it's fine. No, he goes, knocks on the door. She's in there reading. She opens it thinking it was Connolly. It is not.
Yeah.
And Whitey asks her to join them. And he has a go at her saying that she is embarrassing her husband right now by doing this. This is just really embarrassing and rude. And she keeps saying, I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling ill. It's no offense. And then he says, oh, well, let's check. And he starts like creepily like touching her face and
Yeah.
then slowly moves down to her neck and just kind of holds there and like starts squeezing, saying that he's going to check. Does she feel any soreness? He doesn't feel any swelling. So,
Oh
how is
God.
she feeling? And he tells her that he had to learn the hard way not to take any chances with sickness. And then he calls her a poor little thing and says, I wouldn't let anything happen to you. And Connolly's a lucky man. And then he leaves. Ick.
I tell you
Ick.
what, if my
Ugh.
suitcase wouldn't be packed that fucking
Yeah,
night,
I'm gone. I'm
that
gone.
night, because you just
I'm
threatened
out.
me with possible rape also. But to make me feel that way in my own house too. Like,
Ugh.
no, no. And my husband didn't protect me. My husband wasn't right behind you trying to mitigate this situation. He just sat there like a fucking coward at the table,
Yeah, no.
knowing
I'm done.
that what Whitey was coming upstairs to do. Nah.
I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out
No. No. No.
immediately.
Yeah.
But then we see Whitey and Fleming. They're at a boat dock in front of this big ass boat called Valhalla, and there's two men. There's a Boston dude and then an Irishman, and they're both promising to get the cargo to Ireland safe and sound. So this is all the guns for the IRA. Then we see the U.S. Attorney's Office with the new head prosecutor. Connolly just kind of barges into his fucking office and is trying to like introduce himself. He has some like tickets to something that he's trying to offer him. He's like, "Oh, let me buy you a pint." Da, 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 da. And the attorney's like, "You have you got a case for me?
Not
Have you got anything for me?" And
shut
essentially,
down.
yeah, otherwise, like, you're dismissed. I don't want you here. But
Yeah.
before you leave, I would like to know why no one has nailed Whitey. And Connolly is like, what's he done? He's a small time dude in Boston. He's an invaluable asset. Like, what has been said that he's done? And the attorney's like, everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything. And anytime anyone tries to start an investigation on him, it just goes poof. So what's happening? And Connolly literally tells him it's the luck of the Irish and that it's all a political play trying to
This
bring Billy
man,
the senator down.
this man has folded like a fucking lawn chair and somehow started the movie from a very like, oh, maybe this is an intelligent man knowing how to work the system, to being now a fumbling buffoon and like every scene where you're just like, dude, get it.
how
Wow.
how
Like,
did you even pass like the
yeah.
FBI training at this point? Like
Oh, yeah. Like,
Jesus
he
Christ.
is not what I would suspect to be up that high in the FBI at all.
Jesus Christ. And the attorney's like, "Well, okay, Billy's definitely not protecting his older brother. So why is he involved in everything? But the FBI is saying that he's clean, even though other agents from other organizations are saying he's not." And Connolly starts out saying, "Oh, well, he doesn't use a phone. So, like, how are you going to catch him if he doesn't use a phone?" And then he all of a sudden is like, "Well, he's gone legit. The vending machines brings up the vending machines again," which is another reason why I'm like, yeah, that's how they're washing the money to a certain extent. But he's like, "Oh, he's gone legit." So the attorney's like, which fucking is it? Is he retired? He doesn't use phones? Like,
Yeah.
do your fucking job, basically, and fucking find out. So Connolly leaves with his tail behind his legs and heads straight for Billy. And
Yeah.
he's telling Billy, he's like, "Hey, the attorney is coming after Whitey hard. This is not going to be good for anyone. Like, you need to talk to him." They start talking about blood and honor and loyalty being the most important thing. "I'm not asking you to help me. I'm asking you to help your brother." Da, 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 da. And Billy is like, "Well, that seems like it's the same thing now, isn't it?" Yeah, they're kind of
Yeah.
in all of this together. So,
Yeah.
and then Connolly tries to be like, "Well, the FBI is asking about you too, Billy." And Billy's like, "If you ever come into my space like this again, I will make you regret even joining the FBI. Like, get the fuck
Yeah.
out." Jesus fucking Christ. Then we see back at the FBI office, Ben Riot is handing a document to Kevin Bacon, and it's information that they got from Whitey. But then he has another document that is the same information that they got weeks earlier from a different informant. And he has multiple of these. Basically, Whitey's entire file full of stuff is stuff that they had found out from other informants way before Whitey told them about it. So,
Yeah.
like, mm, and it turns out the weapons that Whitey sent over to the IRA were intercepted by the Irish Navy, and the pilot is a snitch for the DEA and Customs. So
Yeah.
Ben Wyatt is telling him all this, and Connolly's like, "Oh, he thinks he's smooth. He's not smooth at all." He's like, "Oh, that's crazy. Um, who is their informant? Like, where's he at? I want to, we should talk to him." And Ben Wyatt's like, "I don't know what his name is." Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, he belongs to the DEA. We can't talk to him." He's like, "Well, you can pull some strings. Like, you can do that. Like, inter department communication, and Benoit is
Yeah.
like, nope, denied.
I'm not gonna
We're
do
not
that.
doing it. It's not fucking happening. So now shit is just starting to fall apart for Connolly in a big way. And then we see a weird scene of Whitey just laying on the couch, like slowly zooming out, and he's just got like the scheming face on, which, like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
he's planning again. And then we see the pilot being taken to the safe house that they killed the girl in by Flemmy. Uh, so Bacon, then we see Bacon on the phone with the higher ups, and he's telling them basically, we're just providing protection for fucking Whitey at this point. Like, I can't do anything. I need your help. Help me figure out how to untangle this fucking mess. And the higher ups are like, we can't do anything because of the involvement in him getting us the Italian mob. The
Yeah.
case, we can't do anything with Whitey because the case is still ongoing. We still need him and the information he provided. We can't go back on that now legally. And then they go, but the agents that you think are helping him,
We could definitely go after them.
fair game.
Yeah.
So then we see Hopper and Connolly in a bar, and Hopper is flipping out. He's like, the vice is closing around us. Like, we have fucked up big time. And Connolly just starts rapping again about all the things that Whitey has told them, and Whitey this and Whitey that. And Hopper is like, he didn't tell us anything. You forget that I know the truth.
Yeah.
He didn't give a shit. He has introduced drugs and dope to every fucking kid in Southie. Like, he has killed people. Like, da 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 da. And Connolly's like, oh, the killings, that wasn't their fault. Blah 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 blah. Like, shut the fuck up. And the
Yeah.
attorney apparently is going to be taking everything up to DC. And Connolly is still totally convinced that because they took down the mafia and the Italian family, that they're untouchable at this point, which is so fucking stupid. That
Yeah.
Hopper is totally breaking down. He's talking about how he wanted to make a difference, and now instead of doing that, he's just digging his own grave.
Yep.
Um, Connolly tries to go home, and his house key don't work no more.
Yeah. I was like, oh, lost your job and your bitch. That's a real tough week for him, man.
Yep. Um, he's yelling outside. He's begging Marianne not to do this. He goes to his office. He has to sleep there. The new attorney, has a meeting with the local PD and some other people about this informant slash pilot that they just recently talked to. And apparently he is vanished. And Connolly walks in at the wrong goddamn time. And it's a total reaming about this because it seems like a lot of the informants that have anything to do with Whitey just fucking disappear.
Yep.
So instead, they're just going to go and they're going to arrest every small time player in Boston that has anything to do with Whitey at all. And then we see Whitey in a basement with Weeks and Flemmy and the pilot tied to a chair, and the pilot is beat to shit.
Yeah.
Whitey wants to know everything. Who'd you talk to? What did you say? What did they say? And the pilot's like, man, I gave them everything. I didn't have a choice. I gave
Yeah.
up all of it. And Whitey's like, you always have a choice, but you just happen to make the wrong fucking one. So you're going to be buried right here. Pilot keeps apologizing, but Whitey strangles him with the boat or with a rope that you use on boats, those big
Yeah.
ass ones. Jesus. And then tells Weeks and Flemmy to take out his teeth and bury him next to the whore. So I'm assuming she's buried in that
Yeah.
basement somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we get a weird panoramic shot of Connolly just on a boat dock, just like on that boat dock, just staring out at the water. I'm assuming trying to figure out how the fuck he ended up here.
Yeah.
But this surprised me. Hopper meets up with some reporters from the Boston Globe and is like, all right, everything that I'm about to tell you is off the record. And they're like, absolutely, we're going to develop our own sources. We're going to corroborate everything. And he just starts fucking talking. And then Bacon meets up with the reporters and he's like, all right, so I'm assuming you know it all. And they're like, yep. And he's like, you're going to run it. And they're like, yep. So he just turns and walks away. Lets it happen. We see outside of a liquor store early in the morning Whitey gets out of the car, driven by Weeks, and there's papers running with a pic of him in big bold letters saying FBI informant. Grabs one, takes it back in the car, hands it over to Weeks and the driver's seat, and Weeks is like, "What the fuck is this? Like, this is there's no way. There's no way." And Whitey starts rapping. He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it is bullshit. You're gonna hear and read a lot of bullshit about me. Most, if not all of it, is totally untrue. You know me. You know these people. These are liars. There's no code of honor. Like, how many envelopes full of cash did you deliver to the feds? You know, is that something an informant would do?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be paying off the feds, you know?"
Yeah.
But the feds do. They start rounding up all the loan sharks, and one of them is like, "I can give you a big fish with pics and sound," so pictures and recordings.
Yeah.
And they're saying, "All right, depending on who you have, who this big fish is, we might be able to offer you witness protection." He's like, "I got Jimmy, Whitey, Bulger," and then it's just a rotation of them.
Yeah.
All ratting out on Whitey. He brought drugs to
Well, you gotta
Southie.
remember, this is also where the prosecutor was called in by the general cops, the regular cops, and they're like, "Do you want us to call the FBI?" He's like, "Oh no, no, no.
No,
We're not gonna call them.
we're gonna
We're gonna
handle
go
this.
around them." Which I was like, "Oh, you fucked now, Connolly."
Yep. So now they got all these eyewitnesses to all of these shootings and shit. And then we see Whitey and Connolly having a talk by the water, and Connolly's like, "They got me on all of it, and they got you on all of it too." And he's like, "You fucking used me, dude," which, like, duh.
Right.
And Whitey was like, "I was an alliance. I'll call you in a week, see what you know." And Connolly's like, "There's nothing more that I'm gonna know. You're not
Yeah.
understanding what I'm saying." Then we see some shots of Boston, Whitey in a church, apparently uh, praying or whatever. And then we see the FBI showing up to arrest Connolly, and he does not look good. He looks much older. He looks ragged,
Yeah.
haggard. He asked them if he could leave with some dignity. And they're like, "Fuck no, get the fuck out of here. We're gonna fucking arrest you."
Yeah.
So they arrest him, and then they arrest Fleming in the middle of the street after he's shopping with some lady. The- She
I'm gonna
drops the bags
assume
everywhere.
I'm gonna assume the darkest answer there, the mother of the girl that he
Oh
raised,
God, I don't
fucked,
even
and
know.
buried.
I don't even know. I don't even
Gonna
know.
throw that out there.
Maybe. Um, but the FBI asks him, "What's your opinion on Whitey?" And Flemmy just says, "Strictly criminal."
Yeah.
That's it. Then we see Billy waiting by a phone and picks it up as soon as it rings, and it's Whitey calling from a payphone at a small little gas station, and he knew immediately who it was going to be. Tells Whitey he hasn't read any of the papers, and Whitey's like, "You're not going to see me for a while, so look after yourself." And Billy's like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, does it have to be this way?" And Whitey's like, "Is there any other way?" And then he
Yep.
drives off into the darkness. And we get some of those stupid, I hate when they do this. They put the information on the screen.
I
I hate
like
it.
it when they do it. It makes me feel like I get a good ending for everybody. You know?
Yeah, I can get that. So, 1995, James Whitey Bulger left Boston for the final time. In the years following, there were reported sightings of him just all around the globe.
Yeah.
And for giving the information against Bulger, Kevin Weeks received a reduced sentence of 5 years in federal prison. And then, after agreeing to a plea bargain, John Moderano served a reduced sentence of 12 years. And he and Kevin Weeks are both walking the streets of Boston today.
Mm-hmm.
John Morris, who was Hopper, was granted immunity for his crimes in exchange for his cooperation and testimony against his friend and colleague John Connolly. Stephen Fleming pled guilty to 10 murders and is currently serving a life sentence in an undisclosed location. Billy Bulger left the state senate and became a chancellor of the University of Massachusetts. He was forced to resign when it was revealed that he had been in touch with his fugitive brother. John Connolly elected not to testify against Bulger and was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of John Callahan. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. And then we get a shot of an old man getting out of an elevator in a parking garage, and he's got a bucket hat on, which I think is amazing. And then a whole gaggle of cops just surround him and arrest him. So on June 22nd, 2011, after 12 years on the FBI's most wanted list, an anonymous tip led to the arrest of James Bulger in Santa Monica, California. Bulger was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences plus 5 years for the death of at least 11 people. So,
That's all she wrote.
how well did it do? So, the first thing we need to talk about is the Boston Code of Silence, because it's talked about a lot in this movie, but they never call it that. It's all just Connolly talking about blood, family, loyalty, honor, whatever. But this was a huge deal in especially around this time frame, the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Boston in particular, that there really was a code of silence that people just did not. You didn't rat, you didn't talk about it. Like, you see something in front of your face, no you didn't. It's just the culture of the time. And this also extended to like the Boston police department, because I mean they were all lining their pockets anyway. So yeah, nobody was talking about anything. So it's really important for the story so that it makes sense of how it could get to where it got to, because otherwise it's like, what the fuck? Whitey was born September 3rd, 1929. He was born in Massachusetts. His dad was Irish, descended from Newfoundland. He moves to Massachusetts, and then he marries a first generation Irish immigrant. So he's full-blooded, essentially. His dad was a union laborer, and he worked a lot on the docks to like load and unload the ships. And at some point, due to some machinery, he lost an arm. And when he lost his arm, it totally catapulted them into just pure poverty. They did end up moving to this like housing development. They call it a project, which that was the term for it, and that's why the word project and projects kind of morphed into what it means now. But they lived in like this very specific housing from the city that was given to poorer people. He had 2 younger brothers actually, William or Billy Bulger and John P. Bulger. And they said that his brothers were school smart while Whitey was pure street smarts. The police actually gave him that name because his hair was like so blonde it was almost white, and he hated it. He absolutely hated being called Whitey. He preferred Jim, Jimmy, or Boots. And that's because of his cowboy boots that he would wear to hide his switchblade. So he really was new boot goofing, like just all around Boston. He started his criminal career pretty early. He was known for thieving and fighting, street fights. At 14 years old, he was arrested and charged with larceny. And then, but by the time he was arrested, he was already in with a street gang known as the Shamrocks. And while he was in that game, he would also be arrested for assault, forgery, and armed robbery. And they sent him to juvie. So he started pretty early. April in 1948, he joined the Air Force, and through the Air Force, he got his high school diploma, and he trained as a mechanic. But he did spend some time in military prisons for several assaults, and he was even arrested by the Air Force police in 1950 because he went AWOL. So, but despite all of this, they still gave him an honorable discharge. I don't know. In 56, he served his first term in federal prison at the Atlanta Penitentiary for armed robbery and truck hijacking. This is where he said that he was used in MK Ultra. So that did happen. He was experimented on. The inmates complained that they had been quote unquote recruited by deception, which I believe, and they were told that they were helping to find a cure for schizophrenia. obviously that's not what they were actually doing. They were doing mind experience or experiments for brainwashing. But him and 18 other inmates volunteered to do this for the reduced sentencing. This was over an 18-month period, and it wasn't just LSD, it was lots of other drugs that they were giving. He said that his experience was totally nightmarish and took him, quote, to the depths of insanity. He liked to journal and he would write in his notebooks, and he would say that he was now hearing voices and that he um, feared being, quote, committed for life if he admitted what had happened to anyone, which makes me think that they would give them LSD and then they would literally be telling them that, hey, if you tell anyone that this happens, we're gonna come get you. And of course, you're on fucking LSD, dude. Like, that's a demon now
Yeah.
telling you you're gonna die. At 59, he was briefly transferred to Alcatraz in California, but he didn't stay there. He was like, they make it sound like he went straight to Alcatraz. He didn't, and he didn't stay
Yeah.
there for very long. But he did end up completing a bunch of courses. He basically took whatever courses they would offer him. So typing, bookkeeping, and business law. Um, so that's how he kind of spent his 9 years in prison. He was transferred 2 more times after Alcatraz, and he only got parole after his third try, after a full 9 years. Then he went and he worked as a janitor and a construction worker, and then he became a bookie and a loan shark under a mobster named Donald Killeen, and their gang, his gang, the Killeens, were the rulers of Southie for like 20 years. So he got in with them real quick. Their base was the Transit Cafe in South Boston, and that cafe would later become Whitey's Triple O's. So that is a place that really did exist. In 71, the head guy's brother was allegedly shot and mauled by a member of another gang at Triple O's, and this started a war. Total full on
No.
gang war. And this is supposedly when Whitey committed his first murder, but Whitey maintained that it wasn't actually him that did that murdering. So who knows? The war didn't turn out too well for the Killeens. They were like outgunned and outmanned. So Whitey took it upon himself to go to the leader of another gang, the Winter Hill Gang, saying that we can end all of this if you kill the head of the Killeens. So
Oh
the
shit.
movie kind of makes it seem like the Winter Hill Gang is Whitey's, like he created it. He didn't. That gang already existed. Um, again, Whitey said that wasn't me, but who
That
knows?
man's got a lot of it wasn't me's.
Mm. At this point, he flees Boston with the heads of the Killeens, and eventually, the White Hill Gang calls for a sit down. So when they do this, Whitey goes as the representative for the Killeens, and somehow they decided that the best course of action was for everyone to merge under the White Hill Gang, which was very advantageous for Whitey because
Yeah.
now he was like best friends with the main guy at the White Hill Gang. And allegedly he even drove up to the youngest Kaleem brother on the street one day and told him, quote, "It's over, you're out of business, no more warnings." And he had a bunch of the White Hill Gang enforcers in his car.
Oh shit.
So maybe don't send this guy to be your representative. You'll end
Yeah.
up being absolved. But him and the Winter Hill Gang's boss just fucking hit it off. They ruled South Boston the entire time. They really like to shake down local loan sharks and bookmakers and stuff. That was really their bread and butter. But he started to persuade the actual boss to sanction the removal of anyone that, quote, stepped out of line.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be like, "I'm not fucking with this dude. Please let me take him out." And the
Yeah.
guy was just like, "All right, cool." Now Weeks, not only did Weeks testify, but Weeks also wrote a memoir kind of thing. And he said, quote, as a criminal, he made a point of only preying upon criminals. And when things couldn't be worked out to his satisfaction with these people, after all of their options had been explored, he wouldn't hesitate to lose violence. Tommy King in 1975 was one example. Tommy's problems began when he and Jimmy had worked in Triple O's. Tommy, who was a Mullins, made a fist, and Jimmy saw it. A week later, Tommy was dead. Tommy's second and last mistake had been getting into a car with Jimmy, Stevie, and John Morano. Later that same night, Jimmy killed Bunny Leonard and left him in Tommy's car on Pulaski Way in the Old Colony projects to confuse the authorities, end quote. So that whole thing with Tommy, that's essentially how it went down. Like, you made him mad, got in the car, you're gone. Idiot. In 1979, the head of the White Hill Gang and a couple of the other gangsters were arrested for fixing horse races, but both Whitey and Flemmy weren't named at all, meaning now there's a spot to fill. So
straight to the top, baby.
Yeah, the movie completely cuts out all of this. Like, it makes it seem like this is not only is this Whitey's gang, but he was already running shit by, what was it, 1975?
Yeah.
No, the timeline's a lot more spread out. So he ended up transferring the headquarters away from Triple O's to a street garage in the West End of Boston. So, I mean, that sounds pretty smart. Move it away from your actual territory. Jumping back a little bit, in either late August or early September in 74. This is going to make you mad. Whitey and somebody else went to an elementary school and they set it on fire. And they did this to intimidate the U.S. District Court judge that had mandated the plan to desegregate schools in the city of Boston by means of busing.
Oh, you racist pieces of shit.
And then a year later, 1975, Whitey and some other dude tossed a Molotov cocktail into John F. Kennedy's birthplace because they were mad that Senator Ted Kennedy was vocally supportive for the Boston schools being desegregated.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't surprise me, but holy shit. I mean, you're a murderer, so racism's probably not beneath you, but, you know.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Which, it's just, even now, Boston is incredibly racist, just as a city and as a culture. Bostonians, they're incredibly racist, but it's just like, Jesus, Molotovs and burning, setting a fucking elementary school on fire. Jesus. Now, in 71, the FBI tried to recruit him in order to take care of an Italian mafia family by the name, I'm not going to say this right, Patricia, something like that. So it wasn't the name that I think they made up for the movie. Yeah. But it was an Italian mob family. And Special Agent John Connolly was assigned to this. And John Connolly did grow up in the same housing community, just a couple doors down from Whitey. Okay, but the thing is, Whitey was like 19 when Connolly was like 6. Oh. Okay?
Yeah.
So he wasn't breaking up fights. Billy did not introduce them. It was just a kid from the neighborhood that he knew. And because Boston tend to be so close with each other, especially when you are living in US housing, yes, they were like friends. But apparently, just like the movie, this friendship did not extend when Whitey and Connolly were both adults, because he couldn't get Whitey to trust him on the initial pass to get him to work with them. And at this point, Whitey and Flemmy weren't even friends. So they didn't hook up and become like accomplices until 3 years later.
Wow.
So like the whole thing where it like starts off and everybody's like to get that's not how it happened at all. And Flemmy had been an informant since 1965. Whitey didn't know this. So
Oh shit.
yes, yes. How did he become an informant? Nobody really knows how Whitey ended up agreeing. Connolly, of course, is apparently just as big of a douchebag in real life as he was portrayed in the movie because he would tell anybody and everybody that it was me. I did it. I did it. I got him to agree. Connolly said he did offer to help with the Italians because Whitey was having issues with this. And eventually, Whitey just said, quote, all right, if they want to play checkers, we'll play chess. Fuck them, end quote. So essentially being like, fine,
Yeah.
fucking fine. Now leave me alone. Um, Now during this whole time, Weeks, while this was happening, Weeks kind of thought it was more likely that Flemmy betrayed Whitey to the FBI versus Whitey like willingly becoming an informant. But I don't know. Now during the 80s, Whitey, Weeks, and Flemmy were all together working together. They loan sharking, booking. They would hijack trucks. They did arms trafficking. They did extortion. They did drugs. Like they did all of it. And at this point, Whitey and Flemmy are now at the very top.
Yeah.
Right, the White Hill Gang is now Whitey's, and what he would do is he would call up local drug dealers and be like, "Hey, come meet with me." They would come meet with them, and he would be like, "I got offered money to assassinate you. But if you give me money instead of them, I won't kill you."
Oh, shit.
And they all took the deal. So-
Wow. So he's getting a little from everybody.
right. And then they basically became under the umbrella of the White Hill Gang. And the only rules were anyone operating as territory, you could not sell to children, which I'm sure, whatever. And you were not allowed to sell PCP, which I'm sure is because of the MK Ultra stuff. Like that
Yeah.
shit is crazy. If you do that in my territory, I'll fucking kill you. Um, and this whole time, every time that the FBI actually began investigating him and like the DA and stuff, he was doing all of this, but they were never able to link the drugs to him
Hmm.
until Weeks turned in 1999. So the entire time that they're doing all this stuff with the drugs, nobody could ever link it up.
Yeah.
He did help the IRA. What he did was he shook down the local drug dealers again, and he ended up like crowdfunding, I guess, like about $1 million, which is about 2 point something million today. And he used all of that to buy the weapons. Now they did.
I'm sorry. All I can picture is him being one of those like hippie people with their clipboards trying to get signatures and him being like, can you sign for the IRA to get their guns? And then be like, no thanks. And him's like, I said fucking sign my paper. And they're like, oh yeah, yep. Great,
You
thanks.
said $10? You said
Right?
how much?
Right?
Now they did load all of this up into a vessel called Valhalla, so that was accurate. And Valhalla went on up into Irish waters. It met up with another ship. They traded off the weapons. The other ship left. Valhalla started to come back to the U.S. And then the other ship got caught by the Irish Navy. But it was because of an IRA member named Sean O'Callaghan who was an informant for the Irish National Police. Now, John McIntyre, that's the name of the pilot in the movie. He was the pilot for the US leg of the ship, and he was arrested something about trying to visit his estranged wife, like something really weird. That's some like getting Al Capone for taxes shit.
Yeah.
But as soon as they got him, he fucking rolled over, and he did tell them all about Whitey, and Connolly just so happened to overhear the interrogation, and yeah, John McIntyre did not last very long after that. So that was very
So
accurate.
he did die in the basement.
Yes. Now, Hopper, FBI agent John Morris. He was put in charge of the organized crime squad at the FBI's Boston field office in 1977. He tried to stop Connolly from protecting Whitey when everything was happening. Um, but in the end, he ended up helping.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the movie. In '82, Whitey paid for Morris's girlfriend to fly down to Florida to see him while he was doing some training for the FBI. What a weird present, but I guess.
Yeah.
In '83, Morris was transferred to be the head of the FBI Boston Anti-Drug Task Force. And at this point, he was still helping Whitey and Connolly. In '83, there was a war between Whitey and the Italians, and it really ramped up. There were kidnappings, torture on both sides, bodies were being found. It was a whole mess. And this is what shined a spotlight on what Morris was doing because they were like, what the fuck?
Okay.
In '88, the Boston Globe did run the informant story. And did the information come from Morris? Who knows?
I'm surprised Whitey survived being a rat front page, you know? It must have been just because it was the 90s already and like it wasn't like Mafia had already kind of lost the power, you know?
To a certain extent, yeah. But
Yeah.
in '94, the DEA, the Boston Police Department, and the Massachusetts State Police Department, they decide that they are going to cut the FBI middleman out and they are going to look into the gambling because that's under their jurisdiction. All the other
Mm,
stuff is FBI. Gambling, they considered the FBI compromised at that point, which you're not fucking wrong. So
right?
the way they kind of did it in the movie is pretty much what happened. They did scoop up all the bookies, and the bookies all agreed to testify because they're all small time dudes. You don't want to be going to prison for 20 years if you don't have to.
Yeah.
And now, according to Weeks, while this is all happening, this entire 20-year time span, right? Whitey and Flemmy would go on these extravagant trips all over the US, all over Europe, and Whitey created a whole nother person while he was doing this called Thomas Baxter. Okay. He joined associations under this name. He's had safety deposits hidden all around the US and overseas with cash and jewelry, fake passports. Like they know for a fact he had some in Florida, Oklahoma, Montreal, Dublin, London, Birmingham, and Venice. He had these
Mm,
safe deposit boxes. Yeah. So 94, Connolly tells him that there's some big ass indictments coming down from the DEA
yeah.
and I can't do anything. So he does what he did in the movie and he gets the fuck out of
Yeah.
Boston. That's how he didn't die. He got the fuck out, right? And he leaves with his common law wife, Teresa Stanley, who wasn't in the movie. So he doesn't leave by himself, he leaves with this woman. He stays in New York City for a few days, he stays in New Orleans for a few days, and then he starts thinking that he's going to go back to Boston because he thinks it's like a false alarm. Right? Like, all right, nobody's been
Do
arrested,
it.
nothing's happened.
Go back to Boston.
Yeah, I'm going home. And that's until January of '95, Flemmy is arrested. So he's like, all right, I guess this is real.
Yeah.
That same year, their indicted charges came out. They're indicted on racketeering charges. And it's not just Whitey and Flemmy, it's two other gang members. Not Weeks, but two different ones. Um, and at this point, the reason that he wasn't killed is because he had everyone convinced that it wasn't true. he really did have the whole of Boston convinced that, like, no, I'm not a rat. That's not who I am. I'm not fucking, that's not me, right?
Yeah.
But two people listened to what's called a roving tape, and that's essentially like a phone tap. You know how people are worried about like their phone or their webcam being basically turned on and someone
Mhm.
listening or watching and you don't even know what's happening and they're just watching and listening forever to find something to use. That
Could
was a
you
roving
imagine
tape.
our our guy watching this?
God damn it. But that's what they did. They like wiretapped, but they did them, it was just on all the time. So they listened to this tape. And the tape is I think that they were arrested for something else. They get this tape during like discovery or whatever. And their lawyer basically went to the courts and forced Paul E. Coffey, who was the head of the organized crime and racketeering section of the Department of Justice, to admit on the stand that yes, Whitey was a certified legal informant for the FBI during that time period. So at that
Mm,
point, that it comes out in a court of law that everyone's like,
yeah,
and they say, well, we no longer have to protect your identity because not only have you done so much shit, but you led a whole fucking criminal enterprise while you were an informant, and now you're a fugitive. So we don't have to hold back
yeah,
anything anymore.
yeah. You ain't shit to us. You broke your end of the deal.
Yeah, so that's how he was able to just continue living life after the article because he convinced everyone that it wasn't true.
Wow.
Now, him and his wife traveled just all over the United States, like everywhere. They were stopping for a couple days here, a couple days there, whatever. And he was using the name of Thomas Baxter to get everywhere until his wife decided that she really missed her kids. So he grabbed the Thomas persona and he went into Boston and he dropped her off. And then he went back out of Boston and he stopped in like New Jersey or something. And Weeks came, met him, and dropped off his long term girlfriend with him. And
Aw,
they went on the run together.
switching.
They had a common law wife and his long term girlfriend. Just switch them out. Who's
Could
want
you
to
imagine?
run with me?
She had to be like, I'm so sorry. I know this is gonna be so stressful to you. And he was probably like, oh yeah, I can make that happen. Let me handle it, baby. Don't even worry about it. I'm gonna get you home. Daddy's here. And then been like, bye. Hope she feels better. Get in the car, Susie. Let's go. Like,
Now, when he went on the run, before he went on the run, he was still head of the game. But when he went on the run, Weeks took over. So he's the one that's running everything. And he met up with Whitey pretty regularly. Pretty much any time that they were close to each other, he was like on the East Coast. They were meeting up, shooting the shit. Whitey was telling him everything. Um, and he said that at some point, Whitey got really tired. He's just like, he was thinking about it. He's like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And then Whitey said, quote, every day out there is another day I beat them. Every meal is a meal they can't take away from me, end quote. And like, goddamn. God damn. But
yeah.
on July 7th, 1996, a federal grand jury in Boston, they returned a 29 count indictment against him and four other leaders of the Winter Hill Gang and the Italian family. And this included 13 counts of racketeering. That's a lot. Uh, November 17th of 99, Weeks gets arrested. It's a combined force of the DEA and the Massachusetts State Police. So they finally get him. He really didn't want to cut a deal. He didn't want a rat. He still believed that Whitey was not a rat. He believed that, like I said, he believed Flemmy had turned on Whitey. He didn't want to believe it at all. And it wasn't until one of the made men from the Italian family came up to him in prison and was like, you can't rat on a rat. He's a fucking rat, you fucking idiot.
Okay.
What are you doing? That he finally was like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
So, but according to him, he talked to Connolly a lot, and even when Whitey was on the run, and Connolly was telling him that the mafia was coming for him. So of course, Flemmy and Whitey had to go after the mafia. And Weeks wrote, quote, Connolly kept telling me that 90% of the information in the files came from Stevie. But then Connolly told me he put Jimmy's name on the files to keep his file active. So he's saying that Whitey didn't rat. This was all Stevie, but I had to keep him up in the system. And as long as Jimmy was an active informant, Connolly said he could justify meeting with Jimmy and giving him valuable information. And that even after Connolly retired, he still had friends in the FBI, and he and Jimmy kept meeting to let each other know what's going on. And he said there, I could see that a lot of the reports were not just against the Italians, they were names of Polish and Irish guys, people we had business with, friends of mine. I would see this over and over again, that some of these people that I knew and I had relationships with were being mentioned in this report. So that's another reason why he
Oh,
was like, all right. That's why he rolled over. May 23rd of 2001, Whitey, along with Flemmy, they were charged with another 48 count federal indictment, racketeering, murder, drug charges, other crimes. But he's still not in custody at this point. So they're just adding more to the file, I guess. In 2006, a federal judge ruled that the mishandling of both Flemmy and Whitey as informants caused the murder of the informant John McIntyre. So the guy that was doing the IRA stuff, and he gave the family $3.1 million in damages from that the FBI had to pay. Yeah. Now, Whitey took them on a manhunt literally all over the world. There were really sightings of him just all over the place. He spent 16 years at large.
yeah.
12 of those years, he was on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. So, like, they were still actively trying to find him. And he was on, you remember America's Most Wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on there 16 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Eventually, he was arrested in Santa Monica on June 22nd at 2011, and he was 81. He was arrested by the people that arrested him. Their name was the Bulger Fugitive Task Force. He had a whole task force of
Damn.
FBI agents and deputy U.S. Marshals coming for
Wow.
him. They claim that America's Most Wanted, that led them to the arrest. They said it did its job. And the reason it did its job is because they started focusing on the girlfriend that he had picked up and not him. They started running
Mm.
her picture and talking about she liked to go to hair salons, she was an animal lover. They started talking about her, right? Now they arrested him at his apartment, not like in a random parking garage. So whatever tip they got led them straight into his house. They charged him with murder, conspiracy to commit murder, extortion, narcotics distribution, money laundering. And when they went into the house, they found more than $800,000 in cash, 30 firearms, and a whole bunch of fake IDs.
Oh, you fuck.
So, like, he could have kept going forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Now that you're caught, you're super caught. Like,
now, right. Now, as far as some of the other stuff in the movie, he is alleged to have ordered the killing of Roger Wheeler Sr. in 1981 because of the whole Jai whatever thing. Um, and after he was arrested at 81 years old, he started to talk for real this time. Started to talk. And there were some people that were still in departments that were real worried about him exposing a government agency for being this corrupt. So, his girlfriend was arrested, and in March of 2012, she pled guilty to conspiracy to harbor a fugitive, identity fraud, and conspiracy to commit identity fraud. Um, She was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison in 2012. She also got a bunch of charges for contempt on there too because she absolutely refused to testify against him. Ride or die, bitch. Ride or
Yeah.
die, bitch. But she completed her sentence July 23rd of 2020.
Welcome
So,
back.
where you at? He got life imprisonment times 2 plus 5 years, so they did get that right. But while he was in prison, his health declined rapidly. Now, I could see a couple different reasons. One, he was already 81.
Yeah.
2, prison is difficult for young people. I can't imagine being fucking old and being in prison. And 3, if you want to go conspiracy theory, a lot of people didn't want him to talk. And the way his health decline was really weird. He did fall out of bed and he did break a hip, so he had a lot of trouble walking, but he was constantly being reprimanded for weird shit like jerking off in front of a male staff member. And again, he was talking a lot to anyone that would listen. And it was
Yeah.
just really weird, off the wall shit. So, like,
Mm.
mm, who knows? October 30th, 2018, he was found dead in his cell. Now, John Joseph Connolly, right? He was an FBI agent. As I said, he did grow up in the same area. He did have some sort of relationship with Whitey. He possibly got Whitey to becoming an informant. And he was convicted of racketeering, obstruction of justice, and murder. He got medical release during COVID.
Hey.
So who knows? Um, there's a couple other pieces that are just like, um, so again, Billy did not introduce them at all. He was just a kid in the neighborhood. Um, the way they portray the death of Whitey's son and his mom, leading to him being like more cold or whatever, that's iffy. He was already kind of fucking nuts. But
Yeah.
the mother of his son that died did say that he became a little more cold afterwards, which is understandable. But everybody else is like, nah, he was fucking crazy before
Yeah.
that. Um, did he threaten Connolly's wife? No, it doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
because by the time this would have happened in the movie, she had already left him.
Mm.
They wouldn't be living in the same house. That entire thing was totally made up just to make him look like a total creeper.
Yeah.
Was he a total creeper in real life? I don't know, probably. He's fucking nuts.
And the
But
FBI agents look like a sniveling little bitch.
right. Right.
Like, just there to, like, let me make you happy, sir. Let me jump
Yes.
through hoops for you.
Yes. Did he strangle the stepdaughter? Yes, he did. But did Flemmy have a relationship with the stepdaughter? We don't know. Anytime anyone asked Flemmy about this, his immediate response was to talk about a time when Whitey took a 16-year-old down to Mexico with him.
But
So
yeah.
who knows? Like, he did order the murder of Wheeler, and he did shoot Brian Holloran. So was it out in public like that? But
It's
he
fucking
did.
Wild West, man.
Yep.
70s.
Mhm. And Moderano did kill Callahan. So those 3 deaths, yeah, pretty much happened like that. Let's see, was there anything else that I forgot?
I don't think so. But I did find that when this movie came out, apparently Jimmy did not like Johnny Depp's portrayal of him and said that it's fucking, this whole movie's baloney and he's innocent and he's a good guy. But
It's
a
the
lot
same
of,
thing.
right,
It's the same
a
thing he's saying
lot
the whole
of
time.
a lot of the friends who saw the movie were like, nah, fucking Johnny nailed it. That is him to a T. Like, so
Oh,
I believe the friends.
yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
yeah, probably. Kevin Bacon's character, the head guy that was mad and yelling at everybody all the time, he wasn't based off of a real person. It was like a conglomerate of various agents. Because again, this story makes it seem like it happened within like 3 years. You know, it shoves everything together, but it was way spaced out from that.
Yeah.
So the people head of Connolly's department probably changed a million fucking times. Let's see, was there anything else? How many people did he kill? He was found guilty on 31 people. Or I'm sorry, found guilty for 11 of the murders. He was indicted for 19 of the murders. He was found guilty on 31 counts of all of it, everything. And they ordered him to pay 20 million in restitution. Where'd that money coming from? I don't fucking know. He's got the 800,000 in cash. That's it. He's going to jail. What the fuck? No.
You probably fucking take it.
Right. Okay, but my favorite thing, and I'm going to share the screen. Hold on, let me get it all ready. Because, so while him and his long term girlfriend were on the run, they visited Alcatraz when it was open to the public and took pictures.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? He had a sense of humor to want to go back to Alcatraz and actually take photos.
I can't. That is so funny.
I love that he dressed up for that. That's
they
amazing.
dressed up.
That's amazing.
So funny. I mean, yeah, that's it. He was a mobster. They got, I don't know, like what, 75% of it right?
Yeah.
The rest of it was pretty much just fluff shit that we expect them to do. So as far as like what we typically see with based on the true story movies, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was all right.
And I give the movie, I don't know, like a 4 out of 5. It was kind of boring.
I think if I don't get at a high score, I'll be in trouble. I don't even want to give it a score. Listen, B loves gangster movies, and he loves any kind of law movie, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, every time we do one of these, he's so excited for me to watch it. And, like, it's a good movie. The cinematography was good, but it's a fucking gangster movie.
Yeah.
It's a gangster movie. They all follow the same blueprint. And
Yeah.
like I said, you've got a totally stacked cast and then a bunch of faceless NPCs. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
And there tends to be so much happening in these movies. They try to shove so much in that I'm just like, I don't have connections to anyone.
Yeah.
At all. So
absolutely.
It's not my favorite genre. I love reading about gangsters and mafia and heists and shit, but like watching the movie, it's like,
yeah.
Get to the
I
point.
Definitely had to pause and like go do something else and have to keep bringing myself back to watch because the movie's well made, the cast is great. It's
just a gangster movie.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's the same movie over and over and over again with different names and different accents.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
I'm like,
you could probably skip it. It's not.
I had to watch it twice. When it's my turn, I have to watch the movies twice. I have to watch them once to just sit and like actually watch it and like figure out my feelings on it, and then I have to watch it again to actually take notes. Because if I tried to take notes in one go, I totally lost. Totally lost. I can't do it. So I had to watch it twice. So
I'm sorry.
It was okay.
Sorry for suggesting this.
No, it was okay.
It was okay.
It's okay.
It's an okay movie.
I feel like we're gonna run into this a lot with true story movie. The whole purpose of our whole fucking podcast. I feel like we're gonna run into
We're just like
a lot of them are like, all right, it was a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is definitely a movie you could tell was made for some sort of Oscar grab. I don't know if it won. I don't think it won anything. but it gives you that feel of just like we're here for the drama.
Yeah, we're here. Here's the thing.
It met the formula. It did it. So
yeah,
cool.
Here's
nothing
the thing.
original though. Like
no, these movies, they're made for a very specific type of person, and it's the same type of person who has movies like Fight Club at the top of their movie list.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It can be fun and it can be interesting, but it's like I don't want to watch the same exact movie play out every single time, which is funny because I love Marvel movies. But to me, they're not the same every single time. It's different people, it's different powers, it's different villains, like
yeah.
But watching a gangster movie, like they're all the same.
Yeah.
It's just a gangster movie. Like someone's gonna die, someone's gonna get arrested, somebody's doing something they shouldn't,
Yeah.
somebody's an asshole, somebody's creepy. Like, please, I'm begging you.
Yeah.
Make them more interesting.
Please God.
Something. We don't need a movie about every single gangster in the United States ever.
Yeah.
We don't. They're all did the same things.
Yeah.
I want to know something cool.
Yeah.
Like
and I think at least even with him, we didn't even once again, no good like heist. You gotta find a good heist one.
I fucking love heists, man.
Right?
I love
I wanna see a good plan happen.
Yeah, I love a gaggle of weirdos that come together and pull it off in the end.
Yeah. That's what I want to see.
We need to do, what was that called? American Animals, I think it's called. I'm gonna have to look it up. There's a movie, it's a heist movie. We watched it in theaters and it was so good and it was so interesting. And it's a gaggle of fucking idiot college kids.
Is it
that
based on a true
steal.
story?
Yes, it is. I have to
Ooh.
remember what it is because and the way that it was shot was really cool too. But like that's what I want to see. I want to see the weird shit. I want I don't even watch a lot of gangster movies or gangster TV shows and I'm already like, all right. Okay, we go from A to B to C.
Yeah.
And we're good. Yeah, I want to see a heist. I want to see weirdos.
And it is hard. I personally, you can't root for any of these people. Like, they're murderers, guys. And yeah, some of these scenes are cool, but when you really think about it, they're fucking murderers. Like hardcore murderers too. So none of these movies so far have made me be like, but that was a good guy. They were like, no, I'm glad they went to jail. I'm sorry he didn't go fucking sooner. Like,
yeah, it's the same cut and paste bad guy.
Yeah.
In all of them. Yeah. Yeah, and my morality is kind of like, like my morality is not like totally black and white. So like I can sympathize and empathize with a villain. But it's just the kind of villains that they are. Then I'm just like, I don't want to be your friend. And if I don't want to be your friend, then I really do not give a shit about you.
No, yeah.
At all. Like, I might be desensitized and this doesn't affect me, but I still don't want to be cool with you.
Yeah.
Not in my circle.
I don't want to be within 25 foot of anybody that even is like, I have a picture of a mafioso. You're too close.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I don't want to.
Thank you.
No.
I don't want that car to pull up on me. Thank you very much.
I don't know anything. I don't need to know anything. I don't need to be involved. I don't. Don't come to me. Yeah. Don't do it. I don't do good under pressure. No.
Call me Helen Keller, because
I got nothing. One time, the last time we went to Orlando and we went to Universal, we got stuck in one of those stupid fucking, what are they called, where they try to a timeshare thing. And B was like, just say we're married, just say we're married, just say we're married, we'll get through it and then we'll get some money and it'll be cool.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. They would ask questions and be like, oh, excuse me, they would be like, Jesus, they would be like addresses on your license don't match. And I'd be like, oh, I haven't changed it yet. We moved like a year ago. Like I give way too much information.
Yeah.
I don't need to be involved in anything at all. Please. I panic. I don't want to, I can't do it. I'm not a good liar like that. I start giving way too much, way too many details. And you can tell immediately I can't, no.
Yeah. No, my problem is I'm more likely, if you just ask me a question, to not really think about it and just start answering. And then later be like, shut the fuck up, stop fucking talking, stop talking.
That's why I have to tell myself all the time, just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
How often in my head I'm going, abort. You said too much.
Shouldn't have said
Shut
that.
the fuck up.
Shouldn't have said that at all. That's why I have a protocol like around cops ever. Just shut the fuck up, because you can't. Yeah, you cannot do it. Get me a lawyer immediately. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. I'm gonna bite my lips closed and sit on my hands so that I don't open my fucking mouth and say something on accident that I should not be saying. Don't trust me with that information. Yeah. Please don't. And I won't ask any questions. I will not ask.
I don't want to know. Keep it to yourself.
It would be the worst to be in a fucking mafia family.
The worst. I'd be kicked out.
I'd be dead. Guys. They just killed me.
Right.
All right.
We will see you guys next week.